Hello and welcome back to Dower House Farms. So something a bit different today now as opposed to the usual day-to-day farm video. I put up a video yesterday about the comparison of the cost between grazing cattle and cattle, and there was just a couple of questions about how I calculate the cost of production, so I'm going to give a quick run through that now today. So we're going to start at the start in the calf shed. This is my calf shed. Now look, it's a finishing / calf shed at the moment, but this is where all the magic starts, in the calf shed. This is our calf feeder here, ready to be set up. So if you're working out the cost of production, there's 5 different, I split it up into 5 different time periods. First is rearing, second first summer, third first winter, fourth second summer, and fifth finishing period. Each period has a different set of, obviously you're in, then you're out, then you're in, then you're out, then you're in. So the cost base for each different time is very, very different. So your first cost, which will vary hugely, is obviously the cost of the calf. Usually starting at the cheapest being a Friesian and ending up at the dearest being a Continental. And the type of animal you buy first day, in my view, should dictate the production system you're in. So when I say the 5 different steps, that's the 5 different steps for me as a bull beef producer. There may be a 6th step for people finishing cattle at 30 months of grass. Right, you won't believe it now, but I had all this recorded and the camera stopped recording, so I'm going to go back through it again. Right, okay, so there's 4 key stages with calf rearing. I was writing all this down as I was going, so it's probably far more entertaining last time, but this will be far more organised. So, right, first is calf rearing. The main costs when it comes to calf rearing are powder, ration, straw, veterinary. Within veterinary, then you vaccination, dehorning, mortality and remedies, and housing. So when it comes to so you've housing, labour and miscellaneous then, okay? So they're so you have feed, vet and fixed costs. And within fixed costs you have housing, labour, miscellaneous. When it comes to working out the cost of housing, say a shed like ours that holds 120 cattle, 120 calves, cost somewhere in the region of 120 grand. To put the cost over 10 years, which in my opinion is a little bit low, but just for round figures, we'll do that. 12 grand a year, excluding interest. We'll forget about that, makes it too complicated. 10 grand a year, or 12 grand a year for 120 calves, that's 100 quid a head. Now, we reduce that cost by keeping our shed full more throughout the, we fill the shed numerous times throughout the year, but we'll touch on that later on. Labour then, how many hours a day does it take to feed your calves? What system do you have? So if it takes an hour and 40 minutes a day, I just add on 15% onto that. That's the labour charge we'll put onto it, and a realistic charge for labour, because there's days it's going to take longer than others, so that's why I put on the extra 15%. Miscellaneous then is electricity, shed maintenance, etc, etc, etc. So that's the first winter. Or the calf, sorry, we'll just go back a step. Your feed, they're probably going to need about 1.5 bags of ration, or 1.5 bags of powder, somewhere between 30 and 50 kilos of ration, and straw is very, very variable, so I'll let that up to yourself. The first season at grass then, land charge, these are different costs: land charge, ration, forestry, seeding, labour, machinery, VAT, or veterinary. Our land charge, the way I do it, everyone will do it differently. This is the way I do it. Not all our ground is owned, some of it is rented, so what I do is all our rent, I spread the cost of all our rent out over all our acres, and that's our land charge. Everyone's land charge will be different. Some people won't have a land charge. That's just how I do it. Ration, they'll be on ration for a couple of days, at a couple of weeks when you leave them out, and maybe a month or 6 weeks at the end of the year. So you have to add that in. Reseeding, we put our reseeding costs down over 4 years. So labour, how long does it take you to go and check your cattle every day? How long does it take you to feed them? How long does it take you to move them? So if your average day takes you 2 hours to go around and see all your cattle, I put on again 15%, because there'll be days you'll have to bring them in. There'll be maybe you mightn't check them out for Sunday, so I just put on 15%. It's just the way I do it. Machinery, spreading fertilizer, maybe a bit of topping, shouldn't be doing it, but anyway. Fertilizer, topping, bringing ration out to the cattle, etc. And your veterinary then, obviously, is a big cost in your first year dosing and vaccinations. So move into the first winter then. Your costs are feed, labour, machinery, housing, veterinary. Again, we'll start at the bottom. Veterinary is just vaccinations, whatever you're doing. Housing, we do it something similar to the housing cost is worked out similar to the calf, the way we work it out with calves. Machinery and feed for us sort of work together. So feed cost is easy for me to work out because I have Cow Connect and I know what's going into every pen, how many tons of TMR exactly is going into every pen. And what we do is we have a charge per ton of TMR fed. That's how I work out the machinery cost, because obviously we have our machinery used for multiple different enterprises. And then labour, again, how long it takes to feed them every day plus 15%. Just to touch back on the housing, so I had this example done here. So if your shed costs you 100 grand over 10 years, and it calls 100 cattle, 100 weanlings. So 1 sec now. So if you have shed costing 100 grand over 10 years, 10 grand a year, holds 100 cattle, that's 100 euro per head to winter those weanlings. But if you say you'll fill it twice in a year, you put in 100 weanlings for the winter, and then you put in 70 finishing cattle for at another time of the year, because you won't put 100 finishing cattle where you put 100 weanlings, so cut it back to 70. That reduces your cost to 60 euro per head over the 170 cattle. So that's how we reduce the cost of our housing. But there's a big question around viability of doing that at the moment, because it's gone so expensive to go out and buy cattle. So they're the costs for your first winter. You then move on to your second summer. Land charge, similar to exactly the same as is worked out above. Reseeding, fertilizer, labour, veterinary, and machinery. So when we work out the land charge, or the cost of grazing, right? If you want to bring it back to a per head per day basis, so you put in what all these costs together. Just say it adds up to 500 euro an acre, okay? You have 100 acres and you've 300 head, and you're grazing for 300 days. That's 90,000 grazing days is what I call it. This is only a figure I came up with myself. So grazing days, so you've 300 cattle for 300 days grazing, so you've 90,000 grazing days. So and you have 100 acres, so 90,000 divided by 100, so you have 900 grazing days per acre. Your acre of grass per year is costing you 500 euro, so you divide 500 euro by 900, they're the wrong way around, sorry, divide 500 by 900, that gives you 55 cents per head per day. That's how we work out our per head per day on grass. So again, the second season grazing is fairly easy to work out. Then your last period is your finishing. Again, you have your shed costs calculated the exact same as the calf and the first winter. Labour calculated the same as all along, how long it takes you to feed them plus 15%. Feed costs we can work out perfectly, because again we've Cow Connect, we know how long it takes us. Veterinary transport is often a cost that's forgotten about, and a lot of cattle it can add up to quite a substantial sum, so you don't forget about that, and don't forget about the deductions in the factory. So that's sort of a bit of a whistle stop tour of how we work out our cost of production, these are just our own figures. This isn't a template probably that anyone else uses. You might have far better ways of working it out yourself, but this is just what we use when I go to work out how much it costs me to operate a system and how profitable the system is. This is the template I use, and it works fairly well for me. So look, there was a couple of questions on it yesterday, so I just said it suited me to do a video on it today. I hope you can see it, and I hope you can read my writing. You probably can't. Watch the videos a couple of times and you'll pick up on what I'm on about. I'd say ideally you'd want to watch the video 10 times. So there isn't really much point in talking actual figures per se, because my figures probably aren't relative to anyone in the rest of the country. And look, it's family run farm, so we don't divulge the exact information. But like, it's all about your context. If you're farming 400 acres and you have a full-time job, well, land availability then isn't your issue. Labour is. Or if you're farming 60 acres and you're making your full-time living out of it, well then land availability and output from land is by far your biggest determining factor of the viability of your operation. So, like, you know, if you're farming 50 or 60 acres, really you can't go contract finishing cattle, because you just won't have enough ground to be able to cater for the nitrates. You know, there's 100 different aspects to, obviously profitability is the main driver in my view of a sustainable business, but it's not the only driver. There's three pillars of sustainability: environmental, economic and social. And like any good three-legged stool, if you take away one, you might as well have none. So while profit is, in my view, the most important aspect, environmental is something we're tied to, so we don't have a choice on whether we want to take the environmental aspect into account. And social is also very important. You know, look, when I was younger than I am now, I'd work all the hours God gave me, but now I have 3 kids and I have a family, and I like to go home at some sort of a half reasonable hour to see him if I can before I go to bed. Not every night maybe, but as much as I can. So look, as your circumstances alter, your business has to do the same. So and you also have to move with technologies, and you have to move with market demands. Look, I'd love to be growing a couple, have loads of tillage, and maybe nothing else. No, I do like cattle, so I probably would have cattle, but like if you're just a tillage farmer and nothing else to do, now the majority of tillage farmers are at very large scale, so they are very busy, but like, unless you're at very, very large scale, having just one enterprise and that be a tillage enterprise isn't viable. So our tillage enterprise is viable at the level we're at it, because there's numerous benefits to tie into both the beef and the tillage side of it. So my point is, it's all about context. Every single farm is different. What I do on my farm is nothing relative to the man outside the ditch here. Zero. We've nothing in common, even though we're both grassland farmers. So like, look, that's why I don't see any benefit to getting into my figures, other than to give people a good nose around, which I don't have any interest in doing. So yeah, so that's it really. I'm gonna leave it there now for today's video. I must get it, do a few bits and pieces, trimming, and get it uploaded and have it up for 7 o'clock. So genie, I nearly went mad when I had the whole lot recorded. I was talking away for about 15 minutes recording and nothing being recorded. I'm the only person that ever saw it. So I had to start again. And sure, when I started again, then I sort of raced through it a little bit. But anyway, you get the gist of it. So that's it now for today. Please like and subscribe. And we'll see you again tomorrow for more Dower House Farms.